friends. It is another Wednesday evening, and I'm excited to have you joining me again on another Let's Talk with the Doc. Always a pleasure, and I'm always blessed and inspired by the people that the Lord brings into my life in terms of ministry for me to have conversation with and to help to be a source of inspiration to others. So thank you for joining me again. Quicker than we thought, we have Dr. Danette Ming joining me again on another Let's Talk with the Doc. And it says, one good term deserve another. Not that I was good, but because she was. So when I come back, I will be talking to Dr. Danette Ming. Hang in there. It's good time to get ready to tell your friends, guess who is on. ORB Ministry presents Let's Talk with the Doc. Grace Without Borders podcast. A thought for you. Ask Pastor. And a whole lot more. You never know what's next or who will join the conversation. All right. I have with me Dr. Danette Ming is in the house with the doc on this Wednesday evening, and I'm excited to have her. Dr. Ming, welcome back to Let's Talk with the Doc.
Thank you, Dr. Beckford. Good evening, and good evening to the audience tonight.
Good to have you. They're just going to be trickling in little by little, but I can't wait to see where we're going to go this time with our conversation. Tell me, how has it been for you since we were here the last time? What has it been like for you since we spent a long time together? And what has it been like for you?
It's been great. It was a great experience to be on in what was that, March? Almost a month ago. Sooner than I thought, though, to be back.
Yeah, as they said, the fierce urgency of now. So, that one so good that people were like, okay, okay, you got to schedule another one. So I would imagine that some people are going to be coming on to look for Dr. Ming back on Let's Talk with the Doc tonight. So I can't wait to see where we're going to go with our conversation. So how has your day been today?
Busy, but a productive day. Every day is different, but it was a good day.
All right, a good day. And are you ready for what we're going to be talking about? Are you ready?
As much as possible without knowing what you're going to ask me.
One thing I know that whatever I ask, it's a thing that you'll be able to answer or talk about. All
Mhm.
right, so we when we the last time when we met, we talked about a number of your own story coming up, what life was like for you. We talked about a number of things. We talked about your standard of excellence. We talked about your dedication to hard work. We talked about your unstoppable attitude. I wondered whether or no you were actually real because of all the things that I heard that you were doing, and I thought I heard it all, but now I realize that I haven't heard it all because there's still a lot more to what I have not heard. So I'm gonna try to find out some of those things tonight. About and somebody did say we want to see Dr. Ming in ministry. Dr. Ming in ministry. So I am understanding that you have a pretty large portfolio in ministry. And so we're gonna try to pinpoint a couple of those tonight. But before we get the last time you made an announcement about your testimony of healing. How have you been? It's only a month, but how have you been? How things are going?
Great. No issues. Just still doing what I need to do as far as eating properly and exercising. I can say that the sleep pattern has improved. Still late nights, but and long days. So
The sleep pattern has not improved,
no.
and we know that has to do with health as well, right? So
Yes.
I'm not the one to counsel. I can't counsel you on that. I promise you, I can't give you any counsel on that I don't need for myself. As a matter of fact, I think I need to be counseled more than you do, because I maybe I'm in a much worse habit than you are, and mine is going on for such a long time. All right, so we know some things about Dr. Ming, and your friends. I'm sure they will soon pop in, and see what it's gonna be like. So I know you have a high standard of excellence. Um, uh, it seemed like that is like a password, or something, a theme, a slogan, something uh, that is embedded in your system. Tell me a little bit about your drive for high standard of excellence. Where's the birthplace of that?
I don't know. I think matched with excellence, I think probably I'm almost a perfectionist. Can you hear me still?
I hear you.
A perfectionist, and the matched with my drive, I always want to be better than I was previously. So where is it birthed? I just think I have a high intolerance for substandard work, mediocrity, halfway work, halfway doing things halfway. It's always got to be, the full 100% or more. It just has to be.
Just has to be. Okay,
Mhm.
so having said that, I'm gonna ask you a question, and maybe I hope nobody listening, from your workplace. I hope nobody listening from your workplace. What what do you hear? What do you hear that people don't know you hear about what they think about your standard of excellence, and how, or maybe hard or inflexible, if I could use that. Have you heard behind the scenes somebody kind of say, they say, I'm going to tell you this, but don't make nobody hear that, know that I tell you this. Have you heard anybody in your employees saying, or your staff for that matter, say, yeah, boy, she's tough. She's hard to please. It's hard to meet the standard.
They say I'm tough. I don't know. I don't know if I've heard them say it's difficult to meet the standard because I do. I can be flexible with my team, and I do assist with. While I don't micromanage, I do coaching or on the job training, and will allow work shadowing. So it's not difficult. It's just that they know that the standard is high. They do call me tough, though. They do call me tough. They
Yeah.
I won't tell you what other
The
and they're not
script.
bad. They're not
Not,
bad.
not,
They
no,
they
the
think that
descriptive word.
I've been called Hitler,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, so they think I'm tough.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So and as I said, I'm trying to figure at what point did Danette say, you know at what point you made that discovery of your own self, for because first of all, I think you have to require it of yourself,
Hmm.
and
Well, it was required. I think it was required of
before
me
right,
before. So remember,
exactly.
we talked about my mother, right? So
Okay.
I think when you asked about what's the birthing place of it, I think from my mother more so, who was very intolerant of just doing things halfway and not being organized and not giving your best and 100%. So I think I would say I got it from my mother.
Okay, so
So,
that grew in you, that grew in your system,
mhm.
requiring excellence that grows in you. All right. So okay, so um, those around you are challenged.
Yes, I think so.
Have you and I'm just asking the question here.
Mhm.
Have you seen growth and maturity are change in people because they know that if I don't meet this, for example, people used to be a little sloppy, staff say, yeah, they used to take it for granted, but they have made dramatic change because they know that it's not going to be accepted if it's less than excellent.
Yeah, I have of my staff, and I think more than um, improving based on my toughness, they have improved because they want to be better. They've embraced it themselves, and I think that's more positive, or more noteworthy than just saying I'm doing it because Dr. Ming is tough. So they've taken it on, and because that's the standard that I set. And why would you be? I have conversations with some of my team. Why would you be less than you can be? And so to take it on, and then to find that it works, so you achieve, and you have a level of self satisfaction. It's not self glorification or self conceit, but just self satisfaction that at the end of the day you've given your best, or more than your best, but you did it because you wanted to do it. So I've
So my
seen.
Okay, so my last question, my last question on that is: has anybody ever come to you and said, "Thank you, because if you weren't as tough as you were or as you are, I would not have succeeded and become who I am."
Yes, few of my staff, and then I also have colleagues as well, who look to me for guidance and advice, and they too know that I'm tough. I guess I'm probably deemed as a no nonsense person, and one of the descriptions in government of me is you may not like the answer I give, but you'll know it's the truth, and you'll know that it's honest. So.
All right, all right, all right. I'm gonna take that. And I'm not gonna say I'm glad I'm not one of your staff. I'm not gonna say that because I like excellence too. So I strive for that if I can achieve it. Sometimes it might not be achievable, but I strive for that too. All
Mhm.
right, so now we are here in, and having said that, we know that you disdain mediocrity. We see that here, and you're often regarded as an overachiever. Tell me one thing, whether it is somebody say that about you or you feel it about yourself, that you are an overachiever. Is there something you can pinpoint and say, yeah, that may be, boy, that's a great achievement, and that maybe surprise me or surprise others?
I can't think. I think it's almost like my whole life. What can I give you as an example of being an overachiever? Um, Academically, the dual master's degree. I mean, one individual said to me, "Well, you just need to pick one, and either human resources or management." And basically, their view was one would be better, one of the two would be better. They both are in the business arena, so you only need to do one. And I decided no, I wanted to do two, and decided that I would pursue both at the same time. So I
Okay.
think that's an example of being an overachiever. But in just about everything that I do, I think that description of myself would be I usually don't refuse tasks or taking on more. I just keep saying yes and get it done. So.
I think if I remember, I'm not sure if it was, but I remember. Well, if I didn't say that, then I'm saying it now. That even elastic, even elastic can stretch to this point, and then it can't go anymore, and then eventually, the stretch limit, it reaches its stretch limit, and then beyond that it will break. Beyond that it will break. All right. Okay. So I see that uh, you always general seeks to be better. I just said that before.
Hmm.
Um, so now some of your friends want us to talk about ministry, the ministry aspect of Danette's life as she ventured. Where was the first time in your life that you ventured into ministry, appointed into something that is considered ministry? At what point that happened?
Um, at I think I was probably about 14. I was appointed as the secretary to the women's ministry at my church. So that was quite young. Um, and then after that, it just progressed into other areas of ministry. I think by the time I was maybe 25, I was the local church youth director. And then at 30, I was the national youth director. So,
Oh, so you continued your excellence from secretary
mhm,
to director and youth director and to national youth director, and continued to grow new converts Sunday school teacher, new converts Sunday school teacher. That
mhm.
Okay. So tell me about the new converts Sunday school teacher. At what age Dan it was, and uh what was she able to, how knowledge, well, I gotta reverse that, because I know you've been born knowledgeable, right? you, you may have been born knowledgeable, and just grew into it. So at that age, I have no doubt that you were as smart as you can imagine, and a new believer. So new converts teacher,
Mhm.
does that new convert teacher involve a range of ages, or there is a cap on who they would pass on to Donnet for the new converts teacher?
And most of the students that I had when I taught the new converts, they were, I think, as young as 20, 25, maybe up to 40. So
Hmm.
that category of new converts. So nothing younger than, I would say, 20 anyway.
Okay, okay. So well, that's a pretty smart, challenging
Hmm.
group of people who have entered into the world, know what the world looks like, curious about the world, have been involved in the world, and now their lives are turned around. Um, if I could ask a question, if you can remember, maybe you can't remember, but what would you say was one of the biggest challenge that you had with a new convert who oblivious about what Christianity was like, and how do I give up all of this, to walk in a changed life?
Hmm. And you asked me what was the
What would
biggest.
you say is one instant you can remember that it was difficult for somebody, although I become a Christian, it was difficult for me to let go of the things, about the song man talks about the vain things that charms me most, I
Mhm.
sacrifice them. Uh, can you recall something that was so difficult for somebody that they maybe wouldn't want to let go?
Um, I think one individual was challenged with the social side, of a worldly life.
Hmm.
So partying, drinking. They weren't a smoker, but drinking, and so that was a challenge for that individual. Then I had somebody else, who privately, was challenged with intimacy, sexual um, vices, if we might say. And so, it's a course action. But I think you touched on it. It's giving up, the worldly life for the way of being a Christian. I was just trying to think, Dr. Beckford, how I came to be appointed as the new converts Bible teacher. I was teaching Sunday school at the time, but I had a young adults class. And I think based on if I recall, based on the weekly dialogue with this class, the students and the number of questions that they asked, I then transitioned of my own volition to ask if I could have new converts, and then I prepared a specific curriculum for that particular class or classification of students. So that's how it evolved. But I think just reminded me. I think it all spun from the fact that the students had challenges, and so
Hmm.
to take it from an angle of more focused, where the audience is more refined, they also shared some commonality as opposed to being a mixed group and people being at different levels of maturity. Then for me it became easier because you're dealing with an audience that is perhaps coming from ground zero, not a whole lot of variation of maturity, and then I could take them through various Bible texts or doctrinal teachings such as sanctification, justification. We actually started with the meaning of and spent a lot of time of the meaning of salvation and really what they had their decision and choice for Christ and what that actually meant. And so, but you're right. You've touched on an area where those are the challenges that new converts actually face. So it was great to be able to walk them through and understand fully, what they were experiencing. And I think people um, who come from the world, they are looking for persons to listen,
Hmm.
listen first, and rather than making assumptions and figure that they're at one place and they're not, and understanding the emotive side as well, because we can't gloss over and say now you're in Christ and so all things spiritual. Individuals have emotions that they're also struggling and challenged with.
That's a good answer, and good response. And the reason why I asked the question is because that the age group that you suggested was a prime age of difficulty,
Mm-hmm.
a prime age of difficulty. Uh, Either that people were already experimenting or were deeply rooted into a worldly lifestyle, and
Mm-hmm.
and to walk out of it and to become uh, 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 revolutionized, and in a hurry, because back in the Caribbean, we grew up knowing that once you become a Christian, we expect this radical shift.
Mm-hmm.
Next step is shift all over, and that has been difficult for some people and more difficult than others. So what were I'm not scrutinizing you,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of curious,
Mm-hmm.
because some people who try to teach people, even in relationship, people who try to teach people in Christianity, uh, themselves don't have an understanding of the transition, and and the patience that it requires for some people
Mm-hmm.
to help to guide them along, while somebody can just make snap of the finger and they just like let go everything. The other people who got to be held, carried, nurtured, nipple bottled, and
Mm-hmm.
help them to grow into understanding and to watch the change happen. uh, uh, where was Danette in that time, in the level of patience, tolerance, skills, to help to bring somebody through the difficult moments?
Well, I think one of the things when as a teacher, um, and I do it, I do it at work as well, is to make the the students understand the excitement of the word. Then that's I mean, I think that was a key step, because again, persons who, as you said, they've lived a life and they're coming in, they don't understand the Bible. Was first of all the Bible says, oh, taste and see, you know and so taste the word, understanding it, not necessarily understanding it as a first step, but so I would teach with excitement. And we would, the mandate was to come with your Bible. I'm not teaching you from my Bible or from my notes, and you're just sitting there looking at me. So we actually traveled through script from one scripture to the other. So it was engagement, excitement, as well as I said earlier, listening and carefully listening and taking an interest in what they were saying. But I would lead them so far to the point where they would get to a certain point and then they would come up with the answer. And I think when people can, be
Hmm.
led and
Hmm.
you're holding their hand to an extent, but then they figure, okay, I understand this, um, and validating, okay, that is the right answer if we're having a discussion, and then it also evolved to now how do I live it? But
Right.
certainly, when you're dealing with such persons, it's patience, and you can't rush. And so sometimes, I would go with a whole lesson, and we might even just get to first paragraph, first scripture, and that's where we would hang our hats, and I'm fine with that. I never felt that it was a need for me to rush through the lesson and then finish that Sunday and say, oh well, I've done my part. No, they often would lead me after I've opened the floor, but they would lead me in the discussion, and where they may have gotten stuck, it's to help them out of that, but help them out of it through the word.
I couldn't agree with you more, because because even though one may have quote unquote repented and say that I give my life to the Lord, uh, to actually win that soul,
Mm-hmm.
and to keep that soul takes skill
Mm-hmm.
and understanding and patience and wisdom and all of those things. So blessings to you, and keep up the good work. So you moved up from that, uh you move up from that and you move up into adult. So she just keep on climbing now. She's climbing from level to level, climbing from level to level. So now she's the she's proven herself that she's got the level of understanding. She's theologically, stable. Her knowledge is broad about. So we are moving her up the ladder. Now we're giving her the adult class. Now, tell me. See that little cynic shake. So so tell me about the process of the development and the growth as she excel. Local youth director to national youth director, new converts to adult. And about what age you were now when you have the adult Bible class? Because the adult Bible class means all of the middle age and older, and all of the other ages, from, let's say, 36 and up.
I was probably maybe 33, 34. So I had a lot. It was a huge class. It was a huge class. Maybe a class of between every Sunday, 30 people, 35 people, 40 people. It was a huge, the adult class was a huge class. And
I
so
can
many of
imagine.
them, as you've said, were certainly older than me. Um, yeah, 40 and up, to senior age. But they would come.
We get and by I'm talking to Dr. Danette Ming. She's back, part two, and we have some interesting questions coming up. I'm putting those at the back end of it. So you hang in there, my friends, and it's a good time to hit your share button and to invite your friends to join us on this round two with Dr. Ming. I'm just kind of prodding on the steps, to climb up the ladder and to get to the bigger things, and so hang in there. I have a lot, and there's a good friend who submitted some questions, right? A good friend who submitted some questions. I
Hmm.
can't wait to get to those questions, because I'm gonna see how she can navigate through those questions. All right, so let's take our time and get up there. So tell me that to me. What was in that adult Sunday school back then? Did we have, like, I would imagine we had curriculum, we have Sunday school
Mhm.
book, material that you studied, and
Mhm.
everybody maybe have their own material that they can study and come prepared.
Mhm.
Um, to me, in teaching the adults, what was one of the most difficult challenge you had as being much younger than a whole lot of the people in your class?
I don't know if I had a challenge in that area. I don't know if they. I don't think that was a concern because I was already well known. When I say well known, I remember I was already preaching and speaking. So I did not. They knew me, so they knew what caliber of person I was, and age wasn't the issue. I think I was more intimidated, going to this class, moving from, as you said, from the new converts class to the, and I cannot tell you how that happened, but I know it was a sad day for the new converts and myself, and some of them were not so sad because they also transitioned to the adult class. But the students that I left in the new converts class, it was a sad day. But I think my biggest challenge was, have I studied enough to each week to be able to lead this class sufficiently in the Word, and then up against, you don't know what questions they might ask, and it's always a high expectation that as the teacher, they expect you to have the answer. But I developed a love of transparency, where if I did not know the answer at that time, and I maybe that's building the rapport and the confidence as well in me of them if they were reserved, but I always committed to come back with the answer the next week. So when we would start the next week, I would open the class with any unanswered questions that came up the prior week, and I would give them the answer.
Excellent.
And so, and then we would evolve to the lesson of that particular Sunday. But I don't think age was it, because I was already quite known, amongst the congregation, having led the local youth ministry and other areas of the church. So, I wasn't somebody who had just come.
What if we shift the word known to respected?
Yeah, yeah, that could work as well.
Okay, all right. Dr. Danette Ming, we looked at her life story coming up the last time she was here a month ago, and now we're kind of probing through the ministry section, the ministry aspect of her life, and there's so much in her story that hopefully that we can get an understanding of what drives her. And if you missed the beginning of it, she enjoys stretching herself by doing new things. She stretched herself by doing new things. She says yes to everything, just that she can do more things. Maybe that's a question later on. So all right, so you keep on moving up now to Secretary of the Women's Ministries. Secretary of the Women's Ministries. That's a local secretary.
Yes.
Okay. I assume that that's like, okay, keeping the minutes, the record, etc., etc. So that's not like a massive, it's a behind the scene thing, keeping the record to present it, and later on.
I didn't like
Um,
that though.
huh?
That wasn't a favorite of mine.
You didn't like that one?
No.
Oh, so you finally found something you didn't like.
No, I'm not a secretary.
You're not a
Now, remember, I was quite young, so it was developmental. But I knew from that I'm not anybody's secretary to be sitting and listening attentively, because my mind's always racing, right? So I would miss information. It was awful. Sorry, it was awful.
Is it, is
So I had
anybody is the person who appointed you to secretary, is the person still alive?
Yes, yes, yes. My mentor, my former pastor, that
Oh,
really.
your former
Yes,
pastor did that,
yes.
and
So
she had no clue how terrified you were at that.
she had no clue, and I dared not tell her because it would not have made a difference.
Okay, so I guess this Velma is responding to her mom, my mother and my wife's side over here. So I guess some relational thing is happening over there. So, all right, all right, okay, all right. So one of the reason why you didn't like it is because it's too steady, too stable, too narrow in thinking.
Yeah, no, yeah, too narrow in thinking, meaning you had to be focused to
Yeah,
take notes.
okay, I got to pay attention to this. I can't keep on exploring my mind can't keep going because I have to narrow it down to this. Okay, what did they say? Okay, keep the record, yeah. So that, what fascinated me a while ago, you said, I don't want to be anybody's secretary. I heard, I heard that. I don't want to be anybody's secretary.
It's not made for everybody, and it just wasn't made for me. So I had to develop in that area because that was a development disciplinary track for me, in that I had to. So I would immediately do the actual typing of the minutes right after when I would get home, because it couldn't be any delay because I didn't enjoy it. And so when you don't enjoy something, and I think this is a natural occurrence for people, if you don't enjoy it, then it becomes a drudgery. So I had to beat the drudgery and do the minutes immediately so that I could get that out of the way and wait for the next meeting. But it was not something in ministry that I enjoyed, because I didn't feel that and it wasn't that I wasn't good at it. It's just I was not called to that.
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take
Uh,
it. I'm gonna take it. And I hope. Well, I don't think anybody is gonna even attempt that now. Not in this time in your life, to even think of you being secretary for anything. And I hope anybody here listening now say you don't even mention it. Don't even mention it because she's not gonna have it. All right, all right. So I'm talking to Dr. Danette Ming. If you're just joining us, it's time to hit your share button. Invite your friends. Let's join together because I said there's some question coming. And by the way, I'm gonna throw this out. If you have a question, if you have a question for Dr. Ming later on, don't be afraid to ask it. Right? Don't be afraid to ask it. I'm throwing it out there. Don't be afraid to ask her a question, whether in the academical aspect of her life or profession or in the ministry. Bible. She's been teaching Bible from she was a young child, so she had to have some biblical knowledge too. So hey, throw it out there. Let's see. All right, we have Dr. Ming here. All right, um, evangelism team member, evangelism. So outreach effort. Evangelism, reach the world. Tell me about the evangelism part of it. Do you like evangelism or what?
No, I like evangelism. I enjoyed it when I served as well, under our evangelism directors at the time. So I really enjoy that. Going out. I think there's a difference between evangelism and outreach, and I think more often than not, we probably do outreach and we think it's evangelism. So,
All right. So give me a differentiation of your perspective on
well, yeah,
outreach and
I think
evangelism.
well, for me, outreach seems to be more in reach, where people are coming to us. And we, may have a program, and sometimes we're not so conscious of the fact that, hey, everybody that's in attendance is everybody who comes to the church.
So we're singing to the choir.
Yes. Whereas evangelism is that going out and,
Get out of the
yeah.
borders.
Hmm.
All right, and that is what you like. Not the outreach. You like, and you know what? I think we turn in reach into outreach,
Exactly. And I
right?
don't
So
mind, I don't mind outreach, but I don't like it under the umbrella of calling it evangelism.
right, okay. So I think evangelism is outreach. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think what we
Yeah.
call outreach is more
Yeah.
like an inreach because if we're
Yeah.
singing to the choir and people who are already here, then that's not an outreach. It's
Mm-hmm.
accommodation, accommodating and make everybody happy in the circle,
Mm-hmm.
right? So evangelism outreach is getting out and to reach out by the highways, the edges, and where people are, go find them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I think outreach really, and outreach should be geared towards sinners. people
Hmm.
in the community who are not part of our group.
Right.
All right, now I got a little shock on this one. I got a little shock, and I shouldn't be shocked. I shouldn't be shocked because I don't really know you. I know your story, but I shouldn't be shocked. But I was kind of a little shocked when I saw that, right? And I got a little and I got double shocked later on after I looked further. So my first shock was that you were choir directors, and I said, oh wow,
Hmm.
she's choir directors. That means she can sing.
Hmm. I haven't sung for a while, but I can.
Oh.
And yeah, you got to tell them your other shock. I'm sure I can guess what that is.
Not really. No, the other shock is that did I see that I saw, yeah, that you're a praise and worship leader. So
Hmm.
then if I thought you could sing, because the choir director
Yep.
doesn't necessarily have to be able to sing if he or she knows music and has a good ear.
Hmm.
You can you can be a choir director if you know music, you have a good ear, and you can know when it strikes up. But then again, you might need to help somebody to get the do re mi fa sol la ti do. So you need to have made some tuning yourself. But then to become a
Hmm.
worship praise and worship leader, that tells me, yeah, that is not average. That is not average. All right. Did you like being a choir director, and what's fascinating about choir director, and what did you sing in the choir?
I no, I actually did the choir directing that I did was an interim. Unfortunately, somebody left, and again, I got dropped into that. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. But all along, I was already doing praise and worship. And if you think
Okay.
back, praise and worship back then was one person doing praise and worship, not moderating, and then you got a praise team like we have today, right? So it's quite different. And I think also that's where notwithstanding, singing, but the strength of leadership also came.
Okay.
Because you're kind of the person. Well, back then you were the person. You're connecting the parts to the service. You're preparing for the message if it's coming after that. So it was setting that stage.
I hear you loud and clear. All
Hmm.
right. So, choir director, youth ministry, co-facilitator of singers ministry, co-facilitator of singers ministry. Um. Uh. Yes. Yeah. Yes. As my wife says, she's noting that too. Many
Hmm.
talents in one package. Yes. I totally agree. Many talents and gifts in that one package, and she's making sure that there's not one that is not utilized, and she doesn't have one gift or one talent that she wants to go dormant. So she just like, okay, yeah, give it to me, okay, I'll do it. You pull over, all right, okay, somebody pull over. All right, tell me about the co-facilitator of the singers ministry, right? The co-facilitator of the singers ministry. At what point in your life did you get into the singers ministry part of it?
Oh, I think that was a lot younger. I was probably 20. Started leading some singles groups and working with singles at 20. Um,
Really?
but that was an individual appointment. So only maybe 5 years ago, I did co-facilitating with um, a male actually, and we thought we would be able to cater to both spectrums of genders, in singles ministry. But unfortunately, you got a lot of women that will come to singles ministry and want to grow and learn, and not many men. Um, but that worked because I was always the one challenging everything, meaning asking for balance of view. So the partner co-facilitator being a male, um, he would have a view and an understanding of what the women were saying. And I'm like, well, tell us how man feel, because this group doesn't just want to be, already know how crazy we are as women. We know how we are. So now tell us, the male perspective. So I was brought to the table, wanting a focus on and understanding so the women could understand, how men think. It's so many women in our world and so many women in the church. We can easily get together, and women get together.
Yeah.
We can have a conversation without changing the subject, and you wouldn't know it's 10 subjects going by, and we're in the throes of it. So that was it was a good experience of working with somebody else and getting another perspective. But so I did that for a bit, and then I do some work with single women, another group that I have individually, trying to focus on purpose. What are you doing in your life and living your life? I think is the mantra that I purport to women. You can't wait around whatever your fantasy or your wish or desire or dream is. If it's to be with another or to have a significant other, you still have to live and you still have to fulfill calling and purpose.
All right. So okay. So tell me, other than being single,
Hmm.
what's the driving force? What triggered? What stimulates? What inspires? Motivated
Hmm.
uh, uh, you to, okay, I want to, is that something that you wanted to do or something that you're asked to do in terms of singles ministry facilitator?
No, it's something I wanted to do. And I think a few of the sisters at my church were like, "Oh, you'll be a good one to lead it." And so I was a bit hesitant because of, I've attended singles meetings and ministries. And to be quite honest, some of the conversation was just not of interest to me. Like I said, if you're focusing on how am I going to find a man? If it's women, then I'm not interested in, because I can't help you. I just think it's so much more to life. So I decided, okay, we'll frame up something, but here are the rules. We're going to talk about things that are more meaningful, that we can achieve. Things that are within our control as women. Well, as I said, predominantly the group ended up being women, but what's within our control, rather than dealing with fantasy or something. You could be misdirected in a desire. You could be misdirected in a person that you may be
Mhm.
even looking toward. But how do you know that if you don't know purpose? So once you know purpose for your life, and calling, then you can't go wrong, and you know how to strip away and ignore, and you know who to let into your life.
So if your reason, if your passion or your desire, your focus, maybe that's a good word. If
Hmm.
your focus is how can I find a man because it's a woman group, then maybe singles ministry is not where you really want to, where is not designed, because that's not what single ministry is designed to do. Is to say, how can you value yourself, because what are the chances that you might not, and if you
Hmm.
did not, how
Hmm.
do you navigate or survive or make yourself worth? You talk about purpose as you say that, so
Right. Hmm.
that's a good way to change the focus, because the fantasy, as you say, could be like, okay, I'm pining for something to happen, and then the question is, what if?
Right. So one I can let me just add to the discussion here is we did a book study. I can't remember the authors, but you can look it up if you want. It's a book titled How People Grow. And it deals with, while it deals with relationships, and in some cases, man to woman, woman to man, it talks about it in the book. It talks about maturity. It talks about growth. It talks about seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And so when you're on that path, as I say, a purpose, calling, understanding, seeking the kingdom of God, and then all other things fall into place, it certainly sent a message of redirecting individuals' focus. And as I said, if you can, and it also built Dr. Beckford, the call to individuals to be satisfied with your life. I find that, there are many women who are unhappy with who they are. They don't love
Mhm.
themselves. They look in the mirror, they don't love themselves because maybe somebody never told them that they were beautiful. Maybe somebody never told them that they genuinely love them. And so, my I think I've taken it on personally is to help women to really believe in themselves, to love themselves, particularly if you're a Christian woman, and to
Mhm.
know that you are more than you think you are. You're more than listening to the voices of others in the outside world. If you can validate yourself, and that's validation without being proud and arrogant and self-conceited, but if you can validate yourself to a level of confidence that pushes you and drives you to be more than you were yesterday, more than your upbringing, more than your negative family history, then I think that's the track that I like to see women on.
Right, great thought. I was trying to remember one of my thoughts that I wrote, and I said you have to first have confidence in yourself. You have to, and I think my thought is define yourself. I
Mm-hmm.
think that define yourself, because if you don't define yourself, others will
Others
define you,
will. Mm-hmm.
and you might not like their definition of you, and then eventually, because you have not defined yourself, eventually what people define you to be, you sometimes psychologically you begin to become that thing, because you have not defined yourself and make yourself stand out, so you know who you are. That means no matter what anybody say, I have already determined me. So I
Mm-hmm.
think something to that effect, that what you were saying there.
Yes.
All right, great. Talking to Dr. Danette Ming, live from Bermuda. And she's on the second turn in a month, so it must have been good. I got some questions for her coming up later on. I got to come some questions for her, and I hope you are here. Invite your friends, because she's going to respond to that. And don't forget, I say, if you have any questions, and if you have it in, whether it's in, maybe because she goes back, she might not want to discuss her job here, and you might not be planning to go to Bermuda to find residency, so you might not ask anything about immigration and stuff like that. But that's her field of profession. All right, okay, all right. Dr. Ming, she was also a coordinator pastoral anniversary committee.
Mm-hmm.
Is that for the whole island of Bermuda, or a local church, or the
Local,
Caribbean? What was that?
local church.
Local church.
Yeah. The pastor that I had that was my mentor that we talked about last time, Dr. Tuzo.
Hmm.
She, I think it was her 20th pastoral anniversary. So I actually led the coordination activities. We did a journal that I did a lot of writing for, worked with the designer, to put the journal together, congratulatory greetings, but photo shoot, coordinated a photo shoot with all the leaders and the pastor, sought to get sponsorship for advertisements in the program, assisted with coordinating the service, participants, writing letters for invitation, letters of thank you, all of that.
Okay. All right,
Mhm.
all right. I've got to go. I got to go back a little, because my wife made a statement here, which I think is a very important statement. I'd like you to piggyback on that, because that's such a relevant point. So many women who do not love themselves. This is why they settle for anything. Sometimes.
Mhm.
What would you say on that? Is that self-esteem problem? Haven't been told I love you, I never experienced love. um, uh, what do you find? um, is it sometimes home circles, family dynamics? What are some of the things that that you hear from some people, why they do not love themselves or have confidence in themselves?
Yeah, I think it's what we touched on a few minutes ago. Some people, some women having had in their formative years, nobody validated them. Nobody told them that they loved them. They perhaps I've heard women say, all I was told, were things of the negative. You'll never become anything. If it was mother, father, maybe out of wedlock or divorce, you're like your father, and they heard the negativity, and so they never would look at themselves in a positive light, just as you said, being defined by somebody else, and that's what they took on, that's all they knew, and because that's all they knew, that's what they believed. And I think your wife is correct that if you have that mindset, then anything and anyone who comes along, you just settle for. It's almost like, well, if this is the best that I can get, and it may be an inch above what you were told in your formative years, it looks better than what I was told, and so that's what you settle for.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Hmm.
All right. So now you also, so you just like facilitator. What does not Danette facilitate? Maybe a men's ministry
No, yeah,
or
that's the only area I haven't been. I've actually spoken on men's days, but I've not functioned in man's ministry, but I have been invited and spoken to men. I've done a few men's days, like
Oh
they have
wow.
women's days. Well, I've done a few men's days.
Wow. Wow. All right. All right. Facilitator for conference workshops, women's singles and leadership. We're not gonna spend any time on that because we're just like, okay, what hasn't she done? I think it's the easier question that what hasn't she done instead of asking what has she done. All right. We know that you are in the. Let me see what I where do I go on it, not to get off too fast. So she okay. So in spite of all of that, I noticed that they say she moderates panel discussion. She is a husher. Where haven't you worked in the church?
Just men.
You haven't worked as a man.
That's exactly. Just in the men's ministry, I think. Just men's ministry, I think.
Wow.
That's it. I've cleaned the church. I've vacuumed. I've cleaned bathrooms. I've been on the committee for opening the church,
I was
closing
just
the
I was
church,
just about I was just about getting to that clean
closing
church
the
thing
church.
open.
Yep,
Wow.
cleaning the church. It's nothing's too hard. Nothing is too beyond me.
All right. All right. All right. If there's something to do, she does it. Since June 2019, you hosted and I pinpointed this because I wanted to hear a little bit more about this. You have hosted a philanthropic initiative called Happy Feet.
Hmm.
Tell us about this philanthropic Happy Feet initiative that you have hosted. What it entails and duration. Uh, Tell me more about that.
Well, I have to preface that with the fact that I love shoes.
Okay.
I love shoes.
Okay. Okay. I'm not gonna ask any more about that. Uh,
So, you know how men love ties? Well, I love shoes.
Yours truly, my wife will tell you that, and I won't talk about how many ties I have unless you tell me how many shoes you have. But so we won't go there. We leave those with unanswered questions.
And so I wanted to, I just, you got, well, let me just say, I won't
Oh,
say,
somebody just asked a question there. Is
no,
Dr. Ming
shoot,
married or
shoot, shoot.
plan on getting married soon? Now that's a question that somebody pops in there. Before we get to the question section, but since as a person asked it, I'm gonna leave that to you whether you want to answer that, you want to pass it, or put it on table it for the next time.
Oh my goodness, I got to do it next time?
I'm just saying.
I'm kidding. I mean, whenever you want to go to questions, then I'll answer the questions as best I can.
Okay, so you want us to put that one down for question section?
Yeah, you can. You can.
Okay.
That's early. Gee, that popped out of nowhere. Um, so I won the philanthropic happy feet. So because I love shoes, and I was looking for some means of giving back to my community, but it for me it always has to be uncomplicated. I'll put it that way. And so it had to be something that was going to be within my control, um, not answerable to any protocols or systems or a charity. It probably can be the better way of saying this. And so I decided that I wanted to um, provide school shoes for children. I also was looking for something that was innovative and different. Here in Bermuda, we have various groups who provide school supplies annually for children. Anything from school uniforms
Mm-hmm.
to um, books to notepads, pencils. Even we also have one entity that makes provision for barbers and hairstylists to get together on a given day, normally the day before school, and they will have children can go and get free haircuts, free young girls can get free hairstyle when they're prepared for school. But it occurred to me that none of these entities do anything for shoes. So, school sneakers or school shoes. And so I said, wow, that's the idea I want, matched with my, fetish for shoes. And so I adopted a primary school, and the graduating class that will transition to middle school, they the parents get to buy shoes for their child at any cost. And the only thing they need to do with me, so I would send out a letter to all the graduates of that particular final year in primary school.
Mm-hmm.
And the letter gives details, congratulating the student and the parents for the accomplishment of the child. And then it gives the criteria for participating in this program called Happy Feet. And the essence of Happy Feet is to improve the appearance and the attitude of the child. So I think
Wow.
if you have new school shoes, going to school, which is very customary here in Bermuda, then you're kind of saying something, right? And so it was it's developmental. Like, you should feel really good on your first day of school. You've got new school shoes. It should change and reform your attitude. And so I would write a personal note, to the parents and give the instructions. And the only thing they needed to do was to provide me with a copy of the receipt and a picture of the school shoes. So they would send that by email, and then I would write back to them, and then we would agree the form of payment reimbursement that they would want. So normally it's just providing me with their bank account, and I'll do the transfer, and they're good to go.
Wow.
So I've
That is
done that since
fascinating.
2019, and I just do it every year, August, September, but they will know about it in June because that's when the children graduate from primary school if they're graduating. So by the end of June, they have their instructions throughout the summer or whenever they go and buy the school shoes, and normally up until September, Labor Day. Then I'll get this influx of emails of, here's the receipt. Put the child's name on the receipt and send me a picture of the school shoes. And that's it.
So Dr. Ming's desire, love, passion for shoes drives her to an initiative that is called Happy Feet. And so she extended to school that you can get your daughter. That was just daughter or sons, or just it was
Both,
girls only.
both. Boys or
Both,
girls.
boys or girls. All right. Kudos to you. Kudos to you. Kudos to you. unselfish, because boy can look good too, right? So kudos, I will give you kudos on that one. All right,
Mhm.
so you're so what I can say, shoe indulged.
Yes.
So indulged that you want to extend it and said get a shoe at any cost. I heard that. I heard that word at any cost,
Hmm.
right? And you would reimburse once the protocol was being followed.
Hmm.
So tell me, is that a charity supported initiative, or is that Danette's contribution to society to bring some level of gratification to our own feelings?
No, wow, it's as I said, it had to be something that was easy for me, uncomplicated, and within my control. So I didn't want to be subjected to a charity status because then that comes with application, annual reporting, what's happening with your
Well,
funds.
that's true. You did say that. You
So I
did say
didn't want. I just didn't want all those rudiments. I can trust myself with my own finances, and so what I do with my money, is what I do with my money, and so it doesn't have any controllables from an external entity, no oversight, no checking.
that. Get
Um,
you.
and it's
Get you.
very liberal. If the parents, I've had some parents who didn't take me up on it because they couldn't believe it the first year, and I'm like, you thought this was a joke, you know? And so, but I'm very conscious that you're making an offering, and so the window closes probably at October of each year because I'm not just going to leave it open for you to not follow protocols, because there's a reason for that. People have to comply. You're giving something almost free. The only thing the parent needs to do is go and buy the shoes and submit the receipt on a picture of the shoes. And so, I do believe that you have to respect an offering of this level, and so that's where the restriction is placed. Um, but so no, it's not any charitable. It's not something I've promoted. Persons have heard about it, and I've even had one or two individuals say, "Well, would you do something for my?" They're strapped for finances, and would I allow their participation, even though their child doesn't go to this primary school that I partnered with. Then I've also had friends who have said, what a wonderful idea, and they've given funds for the school children, like take this money and put it toward your the philanthropic idea. And so I've had friends buy shoes for children as well at the same school on the same premise of a graduate. So it's had its some exposure, but it's not something that I'm doing to be exposed. Like I would never call attention and say go on local media and say this is open.
Right.
It's just not me. But I'm gratified in the relationships that I've formed with parents and also with some of the children.
I'm just curious, if you just forgive my
Mhm.
curiosity. I'm just thinking that you don't have to answer this question. It's just like maybe it could be rhetorical. We could leave it out, but I want to throw it out and said, I'm just thinking, is it that Danette says, Dr. Ming says, "Oh my God, I have too many shoes. I can't spend no more money on shoes for myself. God, I feel my conscience say if I can't do it, let me help somebody else."
No, that wasn't the impetus, but I've had that thought though. I had that thought maybe 2 years ago. I was like, not 2 years ago because I started in 2019, so maybe a year ago, and I went to buy a pair of shoes, Dr. Beckford, and I was like, nope, that's for the children. You don't
Oh
need
yeah,
another pair of shoes.
yeah.
So,
My
but no, it didn't start that way. I don't know why not, but it didn't start out. Oh, I've got too many. and so let me do something. It started out on my love for shoes, and it just transitioned. Like, why can't school children look good too? So I just made something of it, you know.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
He said no. My wife said to me, please don't bring another tie. Please don't buy any more tie. What you
So
gonna
I
what you
can
gonna
buy as
do with
many
that?
shoes as I want. When we go to that question that was asked, that important question, but I can buy as many shoes as I want at this
Uh,
point. I probably in time won't be able to, because then I'll be trying to. How can you sneak a box in? I need some help, ladies. Tell me how to sneak a box of shoes in.
well. And my wife is saying is not a matter of control. Just like saying, oh my God, what are you gonna? In other words, what are you gonna do with it? What are you gonna
Yeah,
do with it?
yeah, yeah.
How you gonna find another tie that you don't have something like it that that could
Mhm,
fit something else. So
mhm,
yeah, and I won't say my number of ties that I have.
mhm.
I don't even know what the numbers are right now, but I'm gonna leave that. All
Well,
right.
my comment was, when I've heard women say, oh, my husband's going to say another pair of shoes, and then they're trying to figure out how they're going to get that box of shoes in the house.
Uh
So what I was saying is, I don't have that problem.
huh.
So, hmm
I do
see,
what I want.
somebody just answered. See,
I do what
see,
I want when I want, however I want, as often as I want. All
you
right.
see the answer, Dr. Beckford.
Put
See,
it in your car for a while, then just put it in one day. All right. Sneak it in and they said, where did that shoes come from? I said, oh, it's been here a long time. I got the shoes a long time ago. It's just like, oh.
thank you for that answer. Thank you for
Oh my
that
goodness.
answer.
Okay. That's and by the way, I must say that's one of the most fascinating stories that I've heard as a conviction for contribution, and
Mm,
something that really helps somebody else.
mm,
um that's really wonderful. That's really wonderful. And that is just really nice of you. I'm sure you made a lot of children very, very happy,
mm,
especially because it's not coming from the payless or the cheapest, but you
mhm,
say get it at any cost.
mm,
I'm just sure, as you said, those kids must have walked pride
mhm,
with pride, and as you term it, happy feet.
mhm.
I think it was more their hearts were happy and they look good on their feet. All right. So since June 2009, in October 2019 and July 20, she was appointed as the strategic director of Caribbean and Bermuda, respectively. The strategic director. The strategic. Tell me about the strategic director.
Wow.
And what was the strategies related to?
Well, it's strategies are all and sundry. But reporting to Dr. Bishop Charles, that he's a mover and a quick thinker, and so um, I did a leadership conference for him in February of 2020, just before the pandemic fully hit in Florida. But prior to that, he was in Bermuda, and we were speaking. He and I were speaking, and we were talking about church matter, leadership matter. And I said something, and he then inquired, "Well, what do you do? And what's your background?" And right from there, he said, "You're going to be my strategic director." Most of the work that I do, if it's not facilitating something relating to leadership, being a very quick thinker, I can I quickly think about the future and bring the future back to the present. So it's planning, but it is looking quickly at every or most obstacles and things that will prevent, in this case, the Caribbean and Bishop Charles and the leadership team from getting to where they need to be. And so I'm kind of the eyes and ears to say, do it this way. And that's matched with, an acumen for leadership. So a lot of my work deals with the leadership at the very top level in the Caribbean, the Caribbean Council, and then the administrative bishops in the region.
Mhm.
And then locally, it's similar because it's it's strategy again, and it's here. We've looked at putting together a strategic plan for the national level of the church, coordinating the various ministries and ensuring that their work is streamlined and focused, and there's avoidance of not much overlap and duplication, redundancy of activities and plans. So it's keeping them in their lane, but also with a focus to growth, development, expansion by souls and maturity of those who are already Christians.
And I have no doubt that you do those uh, at your standard, which is nothing mediocre. If it's not excellence, if it's not of excellence and meet high standard, it doesn't fit into Dr. Ming's portfolio.
Hmm.
All right. So, all right. I'd love to have you working for me or with me, just for excellence. All right. In February 2021, she started a mission work. Did we talk about the mission work when in the last time? Did we make kind of briefly make mention of that, or we just kind of suggested it?
We briefly touched on it.
So, how is that going, and what's the embodiment of that ministry
It
mission
is,
actually?
it is it's interesting. I will have to say it's really that's just another level of ministry for me that I found interesting to the extent. So I guess for the audience, the mission is called Calvary Faith Ministries, and that was a name that I prayed about, and it is pointing people to Calvary, and once their faith is elevated and they understand what faith is. But the interesting thing, Dr. Beckford, is it started out there was just me, no people, no building, no funds, no nothing, and so that's an interesting um, paradigm shift for anybody who's been in ministry and leadership. Yeah, and comparative, I look at several of our pastors who are here in ministry. They took over a work from somebody, and I'm like, Lord, why would I get something that I need to start from scratch? And so it's stretching me, that elastic
It's,
band. It's stretching.
yeah, that's elastic
Yeah.
band, right?
So, but I believe in vision and having mission, and so the target audience. I think I mentioned this the last time. Is it very very disjoint, perhaps business people and backsliders.
Okay,
So those are people that.
so that's your focus.
Hmm.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
That's interesting. I wish you success in that in every way. I wish that grow beyond your imagination. And I hope that you have great results on that. That's
Hmm.
my hope and prayer. All right. Moving on, we're coming down to the questions pretty soon to some of those questions that somebody who watched the last program or the first program wanted to ask Dr. Ming, what is her take on that? And so hang in there, my friend. If you have a question, get ready because we're gonna put it to the doctor. The doctor, she's gonna respond. Administrative, she works with the administrative bishop currently. Uh, I have never heard of this one.
Which one?
I've never heard of this. She currently. I've seen this word facilitate until I'm saying, how many facilitation am I gonna see? But here's another facilitation. She currently facilitates PowerPoint training sessions. Who does PowerPoint training session?
I do. I do.
Who do PowerPoint training sessions? That's not in a classroom or that at some at some school level. You say, okay, as you learn Microsoft, Excel, PowerPoint. Where did that come from? That somebody want to facilitate PowerPoint training session? What's the high demand for PowerPoint?
Well, it's tied to the Caribbean Zoom room, which you are familiar with.
Okay, okay, okay.
See,
Oh,
somebody just,
oh, oh.
I didn't even know somebody was in the training. Listen, look, this person attended the training.
I attend the training. Well, that is interesting, and I know that person quite well. So
Okay.
we're gonna have to have a one-on-one with that person about
Oh, wow.
about this
Okay.
PowerPoint training. All right.
So,
Okay.
well, I do a lot of the PowerPoint presentate slides for the roundtable.
All right. I've heard that.
So, I mean, I have a high proficiency in that area.
Okay.
Very colorful and yeah,
Okay.
very
All right.
colorful and very tight and structured and eye catching and
All right.
attention grabbing. Here's
I
another.
he- I hear you. All of those together. You know what? I must say that. I must give you that. I must give you that because I personally have noticed some of those PowerPoints, and I said to myself, oh, that's kind of pretty creative. That's nice. Who would go find all these pictures and these photographs to just slip them in here and have the photograph speaking in and saying something about it. So yeah, I must say that I've looked at some of those presentations and I say, wow. I would say thanks, and then Dr. Barnett said thanks to Dr. Ming for his slide. Oh yeah, I say yeah, wow, that okay, all right. So I get it. I get it. I won't ask another question on the PowerPoint training.
So
So
then, out of that, then my very good friend, who will remain nameless, who my boss of the Zoom room, mhm,
okay.
she requested, and again, I was running for months, so we're probably behind. And the students that are on the line are hearing this for the first time. I just ran. I'm like, I'm not doing a training, PowerPoint training, and she pressured and pressured, and I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. So we had one session, first session in March, and we're going to have another one, I think, in May, and we'll see how many more we need to have. But yeah,
So maybe behind the scene, I might get my own one-on-one, off the schedule. All right. Thank you. I'm talking to Dr. Ming, and she's just one incredible lady. And I don't know how she does as much, how she does so many things. And I mean, she's exceptional. Really, that's all I can say. The drive, the passion, how you even become available, how do you even find time for something else? I don't even know. I asked you the last time and I can ask it again. Does your day have more hours than the rest of us? It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, God bless you. Her leadership focus includes strategic planning, succession planning, understanding purpose, and leadership in the church. That's a whole package by itself. Just those four things: strategic planning, succession planning, understanding purpose, and leadership in the church. We're gonna leave those because we're gonna bypass those because we've kind of delved into so many things. She loves working behind the scenes and provides support to the Caribbean field director. And I know so many things are happening right now with all the conventions are happening and all of that stuff. Why some of the people that would have normally been here, not here, but they're gonna come and watch it later on, and they're gonna see that we talk about them not being here, but they will watch it afterward when they finish with the convention, which coincide with this moment. She loves working behind the scenes, support the Caribbean field director and leadership team for the coordination of the Caribbean International Prayer Movement. And we have come to know that, come to love it, including the roundtable session. And boy, we can't wait. And we're saying this loud and clear. We can't wait for Dr. Barnett to come back, Reverend Barnett, Prophetess Barnett to come back on the roundtable. If she's listening and if she just happened to tap into this, we want her to know that we are preempting her return and can't wait for it to happen. All right, so we can get back into those uh, deep things, including those beautiful slides.
no pressure, no pressure.
She doesn't believe she has to be seen for the presence to be known, and you're right, because yeah, a lot of times you're not seen. We don't see you, but we hear your name. A lot of times. All right. Um, the answer is in the room. All right. She often said the answer is in the room. The statement is reflective of the fact that with God's power, mankind is capable of knowing and doing more than he thinks. She recently embraced the motto, I don't want to be an ordinary servant. I want to be more. And I won't go any more into that. I won't go any more into the recent trigger and what may have triggered. All right, but one of my favorite songs. I don't want I don't want to be an ordinary servant. And I appreciate that. All right, we come to the question now. We're gonna start out with a couple of the questions. If anybody's listening who have a question, you can post your question. We'll try to get Dr. Ming to answer the question. So the first question that was posted while we're here is Dr. Ming married, or is there any plan for her getting married anytime soon? So that was question number one that
And
came
two,
in on the board.
one and two question. Wow. Well, the first question, answer to the first question is easy. No, and I've never been married. And the second question, I don't know what putting that soon on the end. Repeat the second question, Dr.
I
J.
I'm trying to see if I could catch it back so I don't put words that were not in there. I'm not sure if I can
I
find
think you
maybe
got it right. The first what you
did
read.
I put soon in there? Let me
Yes,
see.
yes.
Is
I think I saw
okay.
soon.
I think see it here. Yes, it is. So here's the question. Here's the question. Write it there in their own words.
Hmm.
Yeah, I did get the soon. So she said she's not married and she don't know about soon. I don't know if she can answer that because it's not like you can say I'm gonna go downtown and pick up something soon. So
Like a pair of shoes.
like a pair of shoes indeed. All right, so she can't answer the second one, but she can answer the first one. That yes, she's not married, and she doesn't know whether she'll be married or married soon, because she's waiting for that bold, brave, ready, capable, able, mature, sanctified, hearty, strong man, ready to find a good thing. So that she's waiting on. I'm speaking words for her here. Okay, so all right. All right, so we're gonna go into question that one of her friend who watched. Well, I'm gonna somebody she knows. I'm gonna say friend, somebody she knew, who asked a couple of questions here, and these are kind of personal questions for the person to get a response. Another person is on, other person gonna come back and listen. But they said the person question number one said there are so many voices today. How can I know that one I am hearing from God? If somebody asks you that question straight up, Dr. Ming, how would you respond to that? How can I know if I'm hearing from God?
I think my first response to that would be um, it is a process of learning that you're, whether or not you're hearing from God. If we take the story of Samuel, comes to
Mm,
mind,
it's an interesting
Eli,
one.
right? Where
Hmm.
Samuel, and it doesn't matter what age one is, it's a process of familiarity, of understanding and knowing whether it's the voice of God or not. And if we even apply in the natural, we begin to learn the voice tone of another by frequently hearing that voice. If I even use the example of the Zoom room, I spoke on the Zoom room um, in March, did it with the women's conference under Lady Charles, and I went to a dinner on Monday night this week, and person I'd never met. And I said good evening at the table, and the person said to his wife, "I know that voice." And he asked his wife, whom I knew, but I'd never met the husband, and she said, "That's Dr. Ming," and he could readily correlate because he took notes, even though he wasn't, physically present. He was listening to the women's session that I was teaching because his wife was listening to it. So my point is, we in the natural we learn voice tones. We know, if I talk to you again, Dr. Beckford, I would know your voice, I'm sure, being somewhere in another
For
place.
sure. Hmm.
So we have to understand that it is a process of knowing the voice of God, but it comes from communicating with Him and allowing Him to speak, and then you become familiar. And I want to say to the person who asked that question is not to be afraid or intimidated if you make a move and you find that that was not the voice of God, because then how do you learn it? Some things, if I never was sick, I would never know He's a healer, right? If I never
Hmm.
had a miracle that he performed, I wouldn't know that He's a miracle worker. If I never got His voice wrong or and listened to another, then I would never know the true voice. And so it's being unafraid or unintimidated by perhaps making a mistake, and following a path, and then you find out, oh, that wasn't the voice of God. And so for maybe layman's terms, it can be trial and error until you really become confident and you really begin to see results, from listening to that voice. But you'll learn that it is the voice of God. I can say that with high assurance and confidence.
I would. I'm not trying to add anything, but I would also imagine that uh, depending on what the voice says,
Mm-hmm.
all right, depending on what the voice says,
Mm-hmm.
that
That's
could
true.
determine whether is this God or not God.
Yeah.
um is am I hearing something that speaks to what I want to
Mm-hmm.
hear?
Mm-hmm.
uh am I do I have a fascination? Am I looking what to hear? Because we could hear voices
Yeah.
that speaks what we want to hear because our
Mm-hmm.
minds are bent into hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
And the devil can disguise himself as an angel of light.
Mm-hmm.
So you could try to speak as if it were
Yeah.
God. So we gotta be make sure that we're open to make ourselves vulnerable to what he said that might not be what we want to hear.
Yeah.
So couple of factors into that.
Yeah,
All
and I
right.
think and then it's also being conscious of the outcome, and is what you're saying as well. If you're following a voice, then yes, what is that voice saying? And even if you're uncertain, if you arrive at a certain destination because of that voice, and you find, okay, it's a
Yeah.
dark place, it's a
Yeah.
evil place, then that could not have been God,
That would not
right?
be.
So I think match with what you're saying. It's what is the voice saying, and even if it sounds like it's the voice of God, then where do you end up as a result of following and or obeying that voice?
Good point. Good
Yeah.
point.
So I
Good
think
point.
that's the follow through.
All right, question number two. Question number two. And if you have a question you want to ask Dr. Ming in any area, if it's not answerable on live, then I'm sure she'll make that determination. But the next question is: Am I operating in my true calling? I think a lot of people struggle with that. You know, what's my calling? A lot of people struggle to know what's my calling. How would you say somebody say, okay, I don't know if I'm operating in my true calling. Can you help me to identify that or help me to figure that out?
Um, well, it's I guess true calling also can be matched with purpose, right?
Right. Hmm.
I think if in that question that person is suggesting, if I make an inference from that, is that they're doing something, let's say doing something in ministry. So to that, I would say that, is it your true calling? I think you need to assess comfortability or comfort of how you're following through on that calling. Um, is it something that you're flowing in, or is it challenging? And by challenging, I'm saying it's not forces external to you, but internally. Are you flowing in that? Are you comfortable? Do you bring already a skill and a talent that matches with what you're doing? Um, And that's probably the best way I can identify whether it's your true calling. Are you you know is it, if you've got something that you need to do, is it taking you longer than you expect? Do you have to garner a whole host of support to get this one thing done that on average should be done by one individual? Are you struggling with it? Is it really your passion? Some
Hmm.
people are not honest. They do things because, and they may do it well, and they may take the notifications and accolades of others, and then they're on the stage or put on this pedestal, but it's really not their true calling. And so, is there an inner fighting, or are you at peace and at ease with what you're doing, and do you enjoy what you're doing? So those are, I
I,
think, the
I,
things
I
that.
I think that's a good answer. When we do like studying spiritual gifts,
Mm-hmm,
and to find out, where do you have a passion,
mm-hmm,
where do you find pleasure, where you find something popped up in your mind, in your spirit all the time.
mm-hmm,
Something is so enjoying you, wooing you. You love that. You have a desire for that, and so in that sense, you could find that that's something that is calling me. And
mm-hmm,
that thing that is calling me are where I find my passion, my desire, my lightness, my pleasure. And if that thing constantly there, then chances are that's something that's your calling.
mm-hmm.
And if you find, as you say, find pleasure doing the thing, even if you don't have get the result you're looking for, you still find a pleasure to keep on trying and do something, develop more strategies and how to approach it. That might be your calling.
Mm-hmm.
And because something is your calling, doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
So because you are challenged doesn't mean you're not in your calling. Because
Mhm,
sometimes people think that if God calls me for this thing, it should be easy.
mhm.
If we go back into history, nothing that God has called anybody for has ever been easy. Okay, all right, all right. How do I know that I'm obedient to the voice of God? That's kind of, how do I know that I'm hearing from God? But how do I know that I'm obedient to the voice of God? That's the next question.
Well, I think you have to, if you go back to the previous question, you have to know the voice of God to know that you're being obedient to Him or to His voice. So I think the two probably are matched together.
That's what I
Um,
thought.
yeah, but then the obedience, what is the outcome? If you believe it's His voice, and then you obey His voice, then it's not going to be for your ill, and for evil towards you. And so I think that's probably the easiest answer to that question. But matching it with what we talked about earlier about the voice of God, what is He saying, and also where you ending up by what He's saying.
I remember. I remember at the wedding of Cana,
Mm-hmm.
when they came to Jesus and said they had no wine. And Jesus, Mary came to Jesus and said to him, "Hey, they have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "What, woman? What have I to do with thee? Man, hour is not yet come." And she did not say anything to him beyond that, but she
Mm-hmm.
turned to them and said, "Whatever he said to you, do
Do
it."
do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
was a strange approach,
Yeah.
but she just said, "Whatever he said to you, do it."
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So to know that you're obedient to God, just listen, and whatever he says, whether you like it or no, whether you see how it's gonna work or no, whether you can figure it out or no, make the move and
Right.
trust him, because if he calls you and if he speaks you to do something, he already figured it out.
Mm-hmm. And I think also just thinking about this is very profound questions. The one on knowing the voice of God and being obedient to Him. I think as humans, and I've had this experience, so I'm not speaking outside of myself, is we think that we need to hear from. I don't know how to better say this. Maybe you can weigh in once I make this statement. We think that we have to hear from God. In other words, God will send people to us as well. and speak to us, and he also speaks to us through his word. And so if we trust his word, and then also if persons who may come to us, we must also believe that God in his wisdom and in his sovereignty will send people to us to speak to us on his behalf. Sometimes I think people are looking for some voice from heaven. Probably is a
Yeah,
way of trying to say it. Yeah.
some supernatural
Mhm,
move or
mhm,
something
mhm, mhm.
extraordinary.
Right.
Sometimes we are looking to the wrong source or to the wrong place,
Hmm.
and sometimes we miss God speaking to us because He did not speak how we thought He would
Would
speak
speak, right? And who he sends
and
too.
who
We
He
might
sent. Right.
discount that person, and they are the person that's coming with the message.
I think one of the simple ways of knowing that you're hearing from God is that if something is on your heart,
Hmm.
in your feeling, in your desire, and then there is somebody who speaks to that thing. It could be a one-on-one, it could be somewhere else that you're hearing it from another source, but then it just resonate in your spirit
Hmm.
and confirm that, yeah, that's me. That's what the Lord is saying to me. He's kind of repeating it. So
Yeah.
we just gotta be always attentive
Hmm.
and be sensitive to when we hear something. And by the way, don't determine or predetermine who or how
Right.
God will speak. Because sometimes you might be listening to the prophet, might be listening to, okay, I said, okay, if I hear this person or that person say it, then I will believe it. And
Hmm.
sometimes God won't use that person or that method. So make sure that you're not choosing how you will hear
Right. Because
to
then when you,
determine if you,
yeah,
yeah,
when if you're selective or you have a predetermined
right,
method, then you easily discount,
yeah,
people based on who they are, perhaps what they look like, and also what they say or how they say it.
right.
So yeah.
All right, relinquishing fear from people.
Mm.
How can I know that or how can I relinquish fear from people?
Is
I'm not
there?
gonna put words in your mouth.
Ah.
Um, but I'm gonna say,
Mm.
number one, have confidence in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Trust. No, as I think you said, don't be what's the word? Oh Lord, the word will slip my head. Don't be arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be arrogant and be filled with pride, but have confidence in yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um have direct contact with God for yourself. Know your purpose and your calling. Know what God wants you to do. And even if others don't believe it and see it, and even others want to intimidate you,
Mm-hmm.
don't let others or external forces uh paralyze you. Don't live under fear of others, because God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. So I would just kind of turn my little piece in there, to relinquish the fear from people. It's better to fear God than to fear people.
Mm-hmm. And I think I would just add, have faith in God, rather than people. And I think, I mean, you have to, you may want to, person may want to understand, where that fear is coming from and why. Why are you fearful of people? Is it because of what they say or what they have said or what you think they will say? Um, are you, one attached to the opinion of others, and that's what drives you? And so, there's that fear because you don't know what people will say about you. Um, I just
And I,
think.
and I think I agree with you, and especially one of those statements that you made there is, uh sometimes we are we create our own fear.
Mm,
We
mm-hmm.
create our own fear. There's a saying that if you think you're beaten, you are.
Yeah.
And if you think something long enough, then you begin to believe it, and if you believe it long enough, then it begin to shape you.
Yep.
And if you think something, sometimes what you see it or you hear it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's what your preconceived notion or feeling is, that, as you said, Dr. Ming, that don't because something you don't think what people might be saying, what people gonna say,
Mm-hmm.
because that could prevent you from doing something for God's glory. Because well,
Right.
if I do this, this one maybe gonna say that, that one gonna say that, and because of that, you don't do what God is saying you to do.
Right. Well, I'm thinking of even the biblical account of the 12 spies.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
Dan had an unfavorable report, and Joshua and Caleb came back and said, we're able to conquer. And what did the 10 say? They thought they were the grasshoppers, right? Where did they get that from? Somebody intimidated them, and they took that intimidation on.
As a matter of fact, and again, I'm not teaching on the subject, but since you mention it,
Mm.
within the text, they came to their own
Mhm,
conclusion.
mhm.
They said we are like
As
grasshopper in our eyes,
mhm.
and so are we in their eyes.
Nice, right.
Right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
so they already put themselves down and say, oh my God, they're so big, we look like grasshopper to them, and so are we in our side and in their side.
Right.
Nobody told them that. They
Mhm.
concluded that.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
So
Good
I think,
reference.
but I think people. I just find people. This is to probably to that question. If people, I think if people took more time to understand who they are as individuals, whether
Mhm.
the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And then you kind of and I'm saying this is something that I've done, right, for years, not based on a bad childhood or hood or anything, but if you can compartmentalize, okay, this is the ugly. Now, what am I going to do with the ugly? Am I going to focus on it or am I going to put it aside? This is the bad. It's probably close to the ugly, but is that something that I want to focus on? And here's the good. Now, either you can do something with the good and build upon it, right? If the good is at the top of the hill and the ugly and bad at the bottom, then can we use the good as a stepping stone to make something of ourselves? But as you've said, as the spies, they thought. So start from who you are, where you are, and then what do you think about yourself?
Mhm.
You know, um, there are 5 questions that I live by. Who am I? Where did I come from? What can I do? It's 5. Who am I?
Where am I
Where did
going?
I go? Why am I here? What can
Where,
I do? And where am I going?
where am I going? Yes, yes, yes.
And so at certain junctures in my life, I ask those questions because I'm reframing who I am. Doesn't matter all the things that we've talked about that I've done. They're relevant today. That I can
Yeah.
ask, who am I? And from that question, then who do I want to be?
All right.
And so I just think, sometimes we look at external forces to validate and people to validate who we are, rather than having a quiet moment or moments with yourself and a conversation with yourself and determining this is who I want to be.
I agree. Totally. Totally. Totally agree. All right. The final of the questions that's on the chart. What are some of the challenges you face as a single woman, minister, and having to minister to men and married couples?
Mm.
What are some of the challenges you face as a single woman, ministering, and having to minister to men and married couples?
That's an interesting question. Not a whole lot of context, say, except for the gender. Um, some
Okay.
cha-
Do you do you so let me do you face a challenge because you minister at so many levels in so many areas?
mm,
Do you ever feel challenged in ministering to men or to couples? Okay, as a single woman, I don't know if you do counseling, couples counseling.
No,
I don't know
just
if you do
say
that, but
no. I've not done counseling for married people, um, and then not any direct counseling to men. So that I wouldn't be able to answer that in the area of any challenge. So the ministry to either of those classes is more on a or broad general open exposure pulpit to pew type
okay.
of ministry. So not anything direct. Um, but that's an interesting question.
All right, that's the last one on the chart. That's the last one on the chart, and nobody's asking any questions. So we're just about
Well,
uh,
the
uh,
person who asked those questions is on the line, so
the
hopefully
person's on the line.
they're happy. I'm sure.
Okay, so the person is on the line. All right,
Yeah.
great. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. I hope that you get your questions answered, and you don't have to put your name down there. Respond to it to make anybody else know who you are. And I don't know who you are, so I leave that to myself. But thank you for asking these questions. I hope that you get some reasonable answers that will help you to put into perspective your next step, your next move. How do I respond? How do I determine? How do I not allow external, I said, if you're vulnerable to distraction
Mm,
in a racetrack, they put blinkers on horses that are easily distracted.
mm-hmm,
They're great runners, they're fast horses, but they don't like when other horses come up neck and neck with them, so they get distracted. So guess what they do? They put something called blinkers
mm-hmm,
that they can see what's happening next to them. So some Christians, some of us need to ride with blinkers and just listen, go forward, hear the voice of God, look at what He's taking us, and don't and block out all the external sources, and then that's called stay focused.
mm-hmm. Yep.
And you won't be intimidated by or have fear for something that you don't see and hear or paying attention to.
Yeah, people, we ought not let ourselves be our worst obstruction or enemy.
Amen.
So external forces will come, but I think they can be managed, depending on where you, like you said, where your focus is. So those were very, very exciting and interesting questions.
Well, I see. Well, thank you for responding to the questions, and I see June just joining us from Barbados, and our friends are coming in when we are just about finished. So, guess what? All these wonderful friends who haven't journeyed with us since we started, we'll have to go back and watch. Here's the good thing. The good thing is that the program will be available to watch and share from the beginning to the end, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or even on Twitter. You can go back and watch it, relive it. We had some good points in the middle coming up from if you talk to Dr. Ming, it's going to be a good conversation. That's all I'm going to say. If you talk to Dr. Ming, it's going to be a good conversation. So, my friends, stop by, check it out. We're just, Dr. Ming, what would you want to say? What are your last words now? You're back on the Let's Talk with the Doc on the second time in just a month. And that's because one good term deserves another, not because I am good, but because you are good, it deserves another.
Wow, it's been really great to be on. The incredible interviewer is your title, Dr. Backfoot. That's your title, incredible interviewer,
I didn't think you would have said that right on the air here.
incredible interviewer.
You
Second
know,
time.
you know, you know what? I see somebody just said something here. Said, "Blessings, Dr. Ming. I am watching your excellent interview." So okay, well, thank you for that.
No, I think my final words. It seems to have been throughout this second or part two. The common thread that I'm getting, and I want to encourage the audience to be the best you. Be the best you. Nobody can beat that. If
See
you
that?
are
You see that person that agree with you and say, "Oh yes, he is." That's my that's actually my last sister.
okay,
That's
well,
actually my last sister.
somebody agrees with me. See,
Yeah. Well, I mean that's my sister, so I'm assuming that she'd be generous and nice. That she would agree with that. But
So she agrees with you, with me. Sorry,
yeah.
she agrees with me. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, listen, you're an incredible guest. You're an incredible guest, and I don't know what you have not accomplished, and I don't know what you are yet to accomplish. But I hope that I'll be around. I hope that I'll be around a little bit longer to see what Dr. Ming will accomplish. Be your best you. And by the way, that person that just write that, I'm waiting to hear from you. That's between us.
Oh,
Okay.
to that person?
Yeah. That person that just write be your best you. I'm waiting to hear from you, and that's between us. And you know what? That's my daughter here, my spiritual daughter for God knows 40 plus years, and I've known her. Wow,
Well, she's
big
in my
journey.
class. She's in my class.
Oh, all right.
She said she
I
came
know
to the
she's
PowerPoint.
in the PowerPoint class, right?
She said.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. You remember that name, right? I know.
I didn't remember it from the class, but I
But
remember
you saw it and you know that, right?
it tonight. Yeah, yeah.
All right, all right. So now your friends are saying some things. You say excellent interview, Dr. Ming and Dr. Beckford. Was a really enjoyed the first and second time around. Thank you.
Mm.
And I help her on Fridays. All right. So she's making herself
Okay,
known
okay.
more and more. She's kind of putting it out there. All right.
I got it. I got it. I got it.
Now you know who that is,
Yeah.
right? Okay. All right.
That person has so many titles, so yeah, I had to figure out who that was. Yes, yes, yes. Okay,
Well,
got it.
thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Now they're popping in.
Yes,
Now they're
yes.
saying
Now she's
things.
identifying
This is Lady
herself.
Blair. Yeah, this is
Mhm.
Lady Blair. All
I
right. So
got
you
you.
know that.
I
All
got you
right.
now. Hmm.
All right.
Wow.
I know that wherever I see it, I know it. I'm so familiar with that name. I know that name. My sheep in my voice, and I know them.
Yeah. Well, you've
Yeah.
had some other supports. I have a friend that was is online who indicated he loves ties too. So
Oh yeah.
we have
You're seeing some of what I'm not seeing around there.
yeah,
So
he's said he loves ties. So we'll see.
I
All right.
won't say maybe we'll talk about ties and shoes when we go offline so we can get an idea. Make it a little bit more when we get offline. When we get back into the green room, we can talk about ties and
Yeah,
shoes.
we will not talk anymore about that.
But that happy feet thing was one of the incredible stories that I've heard this evening, and that's resonating with me, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who that resonates with to know that you could be that kind, compassionate, caring, unselfish, that you'd want to do something for others just to make a moment a high moment in their lives. May God bless you with the
Mhm.
resources you need to continue to do well and to be a blessing to others. My friends, I've been talking to Dr. Ming, and maybe when she grow up a little bit more, she'll come back and do another Let's Talk with the Doc. Maybe when she expand into the Calvary, the Calvary Faith Ministries, maybe when that expands a little bit more, or maybe when the PowerPoint session has grown beyond what she could imagine, maybe we'll have her and some students on for the discussion of the training session. But she's an incredible lady. Her journey has been beyond one's imagination. Her contribution to the kingdom. She's a phenomenal woman. She has contributed so much to the kingdom of God. So professional. Excellence is her trademark, as she says, and she settles for no mediocrity. All right. So if you have anything to do, and all of you who are doing our class and PowerPoint, make sure when it's your time to present that you come up with the stuff, because you know that she won't take no second class stuff. Right? Love happy feet. I love that too. I really love the happy feet thing. I wish I was going to school, because chances are maybe I would get one of those shoes, and she say at any cost. I would have loved that, but it's not for people like me. So I'm not privileged. I'm not in Bermuda either, so I don't stand a chance. But thank you, my friends, for joining us on this journey. Thank you for spending your time. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your contribution. And don't forget, you can still share with your friends. It's not too late to share. If you are impressed and you think that there is something that came out of this that can be a source of inspiration to somebody else, then it's a good time to hit your share button no matter which platform you're on and invite others to join and to listen, and that they too can be a blessing. If you're not following me on Facebook, follow me, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you are on TikTok, check out ORB Ministries because I'm there too. We're taking it at every platform. We're taking it and spreading it around. Ministry everywhere. Outreach, Dr. Ming. We're gonna
Mhm.
reach out, and we're gonna reach out by using these social media platforms that God has blessed us with, and because there's somebody everywhere that needs to hear, and God gives the opportunity. We're gonna make good of it. God bless you, everybody. Have yourselves a safe. Look at that. Look at the numbers. The numbers are just kind of climbing up now that we are finishing. Apparently, they thought we were gonna start at 10
Oh.
my time. Maybe they thought we were gonna start at 10 my time, but you're just joining us. Good time. We're just finishing. Good time now for you to take it from the top. Just rewind, relive, and enjoy all of it. Until next week, God's willing, I will see you again on Let's Talk with the Doc. Don't be disappointed. Don't be disappointed. You haven't lost anything if you just join us, because once we say goodbye, it will be there for you to just relax, get your coffee, get your tea, get your drinks, even your blanket, and just sit back and just enjoy it. God bless you, VM Blair. She's saying good night.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ming will see
All
you
right.
on the next PowerPoint session, and I will see you in the next conversation. Have a
Good
great night,
night,
everybody.
everybody. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ming, you stay right there until I come back, and then we will just have our offline conversation. Peace until next time. Well, thank you for checking in on ORB Ministries. I trust that you will share with your friends, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and stay tuned, because you never know what's next or who will join the conversation.